Once we have all of our data loaded into our project in JSON files, we need to get that data from the JSON files into our database um, proper. So in order to do that, we're going to use some JavaScript utility functions that I'm providing for you. So go ahead and open up my sample project, which I've linked here. And I want you to copy all of the code that you see from lines 1 through 126. Let me bring that up so you can see it. This is my database.js file. We created this file earlier, but unless you added code to it other than what I gave you, it's probably just easiest for you to replace whatever's in there with lines 1 through 126. And what you'll see in those lines is a couple of things. It begins with some database connection code that you probably already had in there that had our user and our database name and our password. At the top, we should see some code up here. I think I added a line here that you'll want. But it's easier, again, if you didn't add anything to this file, just to copy and replace everything you have in there with lines 1 through 126. Because what we have in line, starting with line 26, is these utility functions that I'm providing for you to insert values into the database, but then also to load our JSON files into the database as well, and also creating tables. So go ahead and copy all of that down to line 126, but not past line 126, just to line 126 into your database.js file. And so what we're going to do to start is make sure that our database server is running. So as always, when you start your project, we're going to type sudo service PostgreSQL start. Okay, typed that wrong. And that'll start our database server. That's great. I'm also going to log in, or I'm going to start PSQL so I can look at the SQL. And so again, to do that, we would type sudo superuser Postgres -c PSQL in quotes. Okay, and connect to our database. So that's a \c, and then the name of your database. Mine is my database. And I'm going to look at the tables. Now, the easiest way to look at the tables is to do \d+, and that'll list all your tables. Now, all I have here is a couple tables that I had from before, as an example, names and users. And what I don't have, importantly, are the customer table, the products table, the orders table, and the product orders table that I just created JSON files for. And that's what I want to show you how to do here if you're trying to create new tables. If you don't need to create new tables because your tables are already there in this list, then you can skip this step 6, okay? At if you're creating new tables that you haven't created yet, then this is an easy way to do that. So let me show you how to do that. If you look at my utility functions, you'll see as you scroll down in line 81, one of them is called create table. I'll just explain this first line, line 82. It creates an SQL command that should look kind of familiar to you. Using a given table name and basically goes through each of the fields in your JSON file. So I won't explain that to you in this video, but I'm happy to if anybody wants me to. What I do want to come down to is code for creating the tables. And so you can see here in line 128, I put some table creation code. I didn't want you to copy this because it only applies to me, but I'm going to uncomment some of this. So you see, I have 4 examples of creating a table. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm creating a variable, try to show all of this at once, called, in this case, customer table, that has as its start the table name. And this is important that it's table underscore name because that's what the create table function is expecting, with the table name I want to create. And then each of my fields from my JSON, or from my spreadsheet originally, right? Last underscore name, first underscore name, exactly as they show up in my customers.json file, okay? So just the field names, last name, first name, address, city, state, last name, first name, address, city, state, along with the data types I want to use for those fields. Now I put in text for a lot of these, but like in a second example here, Maybe you're using a varchar, right, for 20 characters, or maybe you have my price here is a real number because it's a decimal. My quantity in stock here, so you can see it as an integer, right? So field name and then field type separated by a colon. And it's important that you follow this format exactly, right? Colons and then commas between each of those things. And then what we're going to do is, now that I've created that variable, I'm passing that value into the create table function, and it's going to create this table for me. So I'm going to show you that. All we have to do to make that happen is run the project. Okay, so I'm going to run the project once, importantly. Okay, looks like if I come to the debug console down at the bottom, it says, oh, created table customers. That's great. That's what I wanted. So I'm going to come to my terminal and I'm going to run that \d+ again to see my tables. And lo and behold, hey, there's a customers table that just got created by me. Okay, and if I want to see what's in it, I can run a select query. Select everything star from customers, and let's see what's in there. Whoops, I forgot my semicolon. No rows. Okay, that's fine because I didn't put anything in there yet. All I did was create this table. Okay, so what we're going to do is for each of the tables you want to create, you're going to follow this pattern, right? And so for me, I've got 4 tables I wanted to create. Now here's the important thing. I only want to do this once because once I've created the table, I can't create it again. So you only want to run this command one time for each table that you create. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out again now because I don't want to run it anymore. It'll give me an error. It'll say the table was already created. It won't actually hurt anything, but it won't run. So I don't want to do that. I stopped the project. I'm going to run it again. I'm going to look at my debug console. Okay, it looks like it created the other 3 tables. I'm going to check it in the terminal by running d+ again, or excuse me, that's not what I meant. \d+, and look, there they are. Orders table, orders table, products table. Great, everything looks good. Okay, that is this step 6. And again, you only have to do that if you haven't already created your tables or you have some tables that you haven't created yet. Okay, the last thing to do is to load the JSON data into those tables. And again, I've provided you a utility function to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and comment out this table creation stuff because I'm done with that. And the next thing you see here in these lines is 4 lines that say load file into DB. And what it's referring to is the table name and then the corresponding JSON file that goes with that table. And it's going to take all the data in that JSON file and put it into the correct table. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the project again. Make sure I commented out the table creation. And now, again, just one time, because I don't want to load this data in twice. If I do, I'll get duplicate data. That won't be good. So I'm going to run this one time for each table I want. I'm going to run it once, and it's going to run this line for each table in my project. To be clear, I'm not running the project 4 times. I'm going to run it once, and it's going to, hopefully, if I did it correctly, it shows me some things here. It's kind of hard to see, but it looks like it put in a bunch of data in. I'm going to stop the project. I'm going to come back to my terminal, and now I'm going to run that select again on the customers table, and there's all my data. Okay, and I could do the same thing for my products table, and there's my products. Okay, and so this is a nice, easy way, at least easier than doing this by a whole bunch of insert statements. Hopefully this will help you get data, if you have a bunch of data that you need into your tables, into your database.